People, this is such a sad day. It looks like I was crying. It wasn't that sad of a day. I have a cold. But I've been waiting for this book that I ordered for like a week, and I was so excited. It is Uso de la Gramática Coreana, the Korean grammar in use book in Spanish, because then I can be practicing my Spanish while I am cheating on my Spanish. But the CD is broken. I tried to look at whether there were options to download the audio, and I didn't see anything for that. I found it. I'm so pleased.
의자예요. 한국 사람입니까? 한국 사람이에요?
So I've been reading The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I'm less than a third through, and I am not excited about reading this. So I think I'm actually going to put this on hold for a while. It can join Charlotte's Web in Spanish book purgatory. I am not in a motivated enough space that I can force myself to work through things that I'm not excited about doing. Let me hold, please. So the two books that I am considering instead, Haruki Murakami's What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. That's what it's conjugated as here, but I think it's we in English. But anyway, I have read this in English, and I am curious to see if reading a non-fiction book is actually easier, because the vocabulary theoretically might be a little bit more things that I have actually encountered, as opposed to like magic and ships and things like that. My other one that I'm considering would be Catching Fire, the second Hunger Games book, because I did enjoy reading the first Hunger Games book so much. I think I'm gonna try this. Why not? Hello. This weekend has actually been very good for Spanish. I watched an entire show, a limited series or something like that on Netflix called Mentiras, or in English it's called Lies and Deceit. And so there were 6 episodes, and so I watched all of that this weekend. I don't feel like there have been a ton of things that I've watched in Spanish that I would recommend people watch if they're not learning Spanish, but this is one that I could easily recommend this to people. It reminds me of a combination of the show based on the true story Unbelievable and something like Dr. Foster or something kind of soapy. It was like those two things combined. So it was a little bit drama based, but it was about sexual assault, and it was a good show, I think, as far as I could understand. I have the cold that will not end, so I am headed to the store to get more tissues. I have been really bad about listening to my audiobook this month. I just have not been in the mood. I have been listening to the Multitude. I have been listening to the Multitude album by Stromae, which was mentioned by Emmy Grace in her video where she's starting to relearn French. French was the language that I picked as my like dabbling language or experimentation language for this quarter. And so it was perfect timing. I love this artist so much. I'd never listened to them before. And so I've been listening to that most of the time when I'm just listening to something on my phone. I've been doing well with watching lots of YouTube and lots of Netflix in Spanish, but I haven't been listening to audiobooks very much. My library book is gonna go back in 6 days. I really don't think I'm gonna finish it in 6 days, but I would like to make a little bit more progress on it.
Magnificent.
I saw a series of videos by Lamont at Days of French and Spanish. He did a series of videos responding to a video by Kangaroo English, I think, about the input method and whether the input method is valid. So it got me started thinking about how some people perceive the input method, particularly if they haven't done a lot of research about it, as not even the easy way out, but just a fairy tale, you know, as if it's just this easy thing that everybody wants to be true, because who wouldn't want to learn a language from just watching shows and reading books and stuff? The problem is, that is too good to be true, because it is very difficult. It sounds very easy to just watch shows and read books or listen to audiobooks or whatever, but you're not listening to them in a language that you understand. So it is so much more mentally taxing than learning traditional ways. It is exhausting and your brain is so resistant to it. I think the closest metaphor I can think of would be if you were reading something extremely academic or extremely technical in a field that you have never learned about in your native language. So the idea that input is easier in some way, to me, is just wild. And I'm not saying that it's not more fun to do the input method. I think it is. That's why I'm doing it. I do think it works better, but if I had more fun doing traditional studying, I would be doing that. This is not to discourage anyone from the input method. I would highly encourage you to do the input method, but do that with the full knowledge that you are not taking the easy way out.
Adoro la cocina pequeña. Ni siquiera puedo ver un sartén de omelette sin pensar en Gabriel.
Hello! So it has been a little bit since I updated. I think it is the 16th of April. So yesterday I finished my very first full complete audiobook, I think in Spanish, ever. I listened to some of the Narnia books partially, but I don't think I finished any of them. I'm pretty sure this was the first complete audiobook that I listened to. I really enjoyed the listen. There were definitely times where I was kind of having to force myself to listen, obviously, but overall I really enjoyed it. I did feel like I was able to understand for the majority of it, and so yeah, it was great. You know, I don't like to promote Harry Potter because I strongly disagree with almost everything that J.K. Rowling has done, and there's definitely things in these books that I think are problematic, and I think it's good to discuss those. For example, in this first book I noticed quite a lot of anti-fat bias, and I know that that continues throughout the whole series. If you're going to purchase her books in general, I recommend trying to get them used so she doesn't get royalties. Listening to Harry Potter y la Cámara Secreta, the first book, my library had the Spanish audiobook, and this one is the Latin American Spanish audiobook. So it's been interesting to switch that up. As far as what I am reading physically, I am 100 pages into En Llamas, the second Hunger Games book. I was a little bit put off physically reading books for a minute, but I am getting back to it now. And I also started another physical book. It was my birthday this month, and so I did get 2 Spanish books for my birthday, and this one is Stamped by Ibram X. Kendi, and it was, I think, adapted by Jason Reynolds. I have read the adult version of this book in English called Stamped from the Beginning, and this is the like YA or middle grade version of it. Obviously it has been translated into Spanish. The other book that I got for my birthday was El Alquimista, The Alchemist obviously, by Paulo Coelho. And also I was at Half Price Books a few weeks ago and I picked up The Color Purple by Alice Walker. So that's just a little mini haul. But yeah, Spanish has been going great. I have been really keeping up with doing something every single day. Right now I have a 32-day streak on Polylogger, and yesterday I got my daily average finally up to 40 minutes in Spanish. I've been trying to break 40 minutes for a while now. Today it's back down to 39 because I haven't done a ton yet today, but we'll get back up to 40 minutes. I would like to get that over an hour very soon, so we're climbing slowly, learning Korean through Spanish. I haven't been doing this tons. You know, as I have said before, Korean is not a huge priority for me right now, but I am excited to be learning that through Spanish so that even when I am working on Korean, I'm also working on Spanish. I am actually going to work on Korean for a little bit right now, and so let's do it. This was a very good evening for languages. I came home and just kind of hung out for a minute, and then I cleaned up my space and then studied Korean for about 40 minutes. Then I read from Catching Fire for another 45 minutes. I am currently on page 130. Now I think I am going to do some stretching and maybe watch some YouTube in Spanish. I don't feel like I am really retaining very much in Korean. Strangely, I feel like grammar is sticking with me a little bit better than vocabulary right now, which would definitely be the opposite of normal. I have been trying to write down all of the vocabulary from the lessons. Obviously, the book is Spanish Grammar in Use. It's not trying really to teach you vocabulary, but I've just been trying to learn all of the vocabulary that is presented on my own, and I'm not retaining it very well. I think I'm going to need to find an app that is better at teaching vocabulary. I've been trying out Egg Bun. I like the app, but I don't feel like I'm learning vocabulary well from it, at least not at the beginning. That's a little Korean update. I'm not like unhappy with it or anything. I knew that I was not going to be making very much progress, and it's just been fun to learn a language through Spanish because it really makes Spanish feel like such a comfortable thing in my mind. Like, it converts Spanish into a language that I understand, even though sometimes I still have to look up words that the book is using in Spanish. It is like a mental thing that I am really enjoying, so it's all going well. It is April 26th, and I just finished the audiobook of Harry Potter y la Cámara Secreta, the second Harry Potter book. This took me much less time than the first one. I can tell that it takes a lot less effort. Well, I wouldn't say a lot less, but it takes less effort for me to listen in Spanish now, and so I am able to make time for it a lot more easily in my day instead of it being this like really intense thing. Most of the time I listen to this while commuting, but also, you know, grocery shopping and taking walks. In the first audiobook I had the Spain Spanish version, and in this one I had the Latin American Spanish one. I like the guy's voice that does the Latin American ones, but I do not like that he does voices for all of the characters. I am very, very picky with audiobook narrators that do voices. I think most of them should not do voices, and I feel that way about him. I did not like the voices. A lot of times they only have one of them, but moving forward, if they have the Spanish one, I will be choosing that one instead. I went to the bookstore today and I didn't end up buying anything, but I did look at a bunch of books in the Spanish section, and so it kind of got me started thinking about what I want to do moving forward buying books in Spanish. I have bought quite a few used books in Spanish, and I have been reading them, but I don't want my collection to get overwhelming. So I decided not to buy anything today, and I made a Notion page. I will show you here. So I already had my unread shelf logged here, and as you can see, a lot of these are Spanish because I weeded out a bunch of English books from my unread shelf. But I added this page for buying books, and so I'm going to do a 2 books read, 1 book bought kind of system. I don't have to buy a book if I read 2 books, but I am like allowed to buy a book if I read 2 books. So I have my currently reading here, I have my kind of credits available, so once I get 2 books here, I can buy a book. If I buy a book, I have to move 2 books from here to used. I talked about it in this month's book video, but I can put this down now. For my English unread books, I find it overwhelming when I have too many. I end up not wanting to read any of them. And that hasn't been the case so far with my Spanish books, but I don't want it to ever reach that point. That is the system that I am going to try out, and we will see how it works. I think that I am just going to jump straight into the 3rd Harry Potter audiobook if it is available from the library right now, because it was a 3rd quarter goal to listen to the first 3. And so if I can just get that out of the way barely through the first month of the quarter, I think that that would be really nice, and then I just wouldn't have to worry about it anymore, and I could listen to whatever my little heart desires. I think that is all the updates that I have for now. It is the 27th. Hello. It is the 27th of April, and I have just realized that I really haven't studied ASL at all this month. I have been watching some reels, so I've been getting a tiny bit of exposure, but I really haven't practiced myself all month, and so I need to do that. I am feeling particularly motivated to do Spanish right now though, so I am just gonna do, I think, about half an hour of ASL and then move on to Spanish for the rest of the evening. I did just finish watching Emily in Paris dubbed in Spanish. Maybe later, after I do some reading, I will move on to another show. I am slowly but surely inching my average up on Polylogger. I am now at a daily average of 43 minutes. When the quarter first started, I was at 35 minutes, and I have been doing so much Spanish, it is just so slow to inch up. Hello. It is April 28th, so I am calling it a language vlog, and I'm going to edit this video. Just some stats. My daily average is at 44 minutes for Spanish, 46 minutes for all of my languages. This month so far I have about 35 hours. I am very happy with that. Korean, my start date on Polylogger was March 27th, and I have a daily average of 4 minutes. I've studied for 2.5 hours total, and American Sign Language I have studied for 45 minutes total, so definitely a lot more work to be done on those two, but I'm very happy with how everything is going, and I hope that your language learning is going well. So let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.